Hey, how's it going? I'm Josh from 91 Tech, and Merry Christmas! I'm planning on uploading this on the 24th, continuing a bit of a tradition. Last year I did a video on every single smartphone I've ever owned. It was kind of fun, not my typical content, and so today we're doing the same thing but with video game consoles. So yeah, consider it my Christmas gift to you, and if you don't want it, well, sucks to suck. I kid, but sometimes it's fun to do something a little bit more personal. Before we get into this, you can give me a Christmas present by going and following me over on Twitter and Instagram at 91_tech. That'd be super cool of you. And we do have a Discord channel as well, a link in the description. Thanks for that, and let's get into this. So what consoles have I owned? Well, let's start at the beginning. By default, the first one is the Sega Genesis. I was born in the year 2000, and my mom had the Genesis from when she was younger in the 90s, and kept it when she got married to my dad. I have many memories of playing Sonic 2 and Aladdin and Toy Story on there when I was young. I really appreciate the Genesis kind of being my first console because it gives me a real nostalgia for 90s games that I think a lot of people my age probably don't have, and that's really cool to me, especially because back then I didn't look at it any differently from a 3D game. I had them available at around the same time, but I saw it for what it was, a fun console. Nowadays, it would be hard to drag most kids away from their PS5s to something as old as a Genesis or NES or SNES, but because I had that experience when I was younger, I still very much love those consoles. What did I play the most on there? Probably NHL 94. I loved that game. Actually, this year with NHL 21, EA put out a throwback version of NHL 94, but with modern players, and it's amazing. I love playing as the Canucks in 16-bit graphics on my 4K TV. It's so fun, but I still definitely love the original. I also played Sonic a lot, Sonic 2 specifically, and never could get past the second chemical plant zone because of the water rising, or acid, or whatever it is, and I remember making it decently far in Aladdin, which was a hard game, by the way. There were others like Toy Story, and I think I remember a DuckTales game that was called Quack Shot, but the one I probably played the most besides Aladdin, Sonic, and NHL 94 was, believe it or not, Bubsy. Bubsy was actually my mom's favorite game, and I thought it was so hard because it was, and it's also an unfair mess and a broken game. JonTron's videos on it are definitely worth watching if you want a rundown. I love those videos. I'll throw them in the description even. But basically, yeah, Bubsy is hard and unfair, and I don't think I'd ever make it too far without cheat codes. Oh yes, the cheat codes. You guys remember cheat codes? So my mom had actually written down a ton of cheat codes for various levels on different games that she had found because you couldn't save, right? So if you wanted to go straight back where you were, you would need to cheat. It's really funny looking at these now, and yeah, very, very nostalgic. But I did say the Genesis was my first console by default. I think my earliest memory of playing any video game is Tekken 3 on the first PlayStation. I remember, I think I was playing against my dad. I have no idea if I was actually playing against him or if I was just holding the controller. Probably the latter. The PS1 was really cool, and it would have been my first experience with 3D games. Unfortunately, I never had an N64 or GameCube. I never even got a Wii, actually, but my friend had one and we played it plenty. But the PS1, I know we had a Gran Turismo game, and I remember my uncle at the time actually chipped our PS1 so it could play any burnt game, and that was awesome. I really wish I still had that original PS1. This one here, I found at a thrift store a few years ago, and it's kind of yellowed, which sucks, but it's unmodded and it works. But unfortunately, yeah, the original one my parents sold at a garage sale years ago. I mean, how would they know at the time that I'd have an eventual interest in old tech, right? I recently picked up a couple Spyro games for dirt cheap, so that's pretty cool. Actually, just for fun, here's me running around in the first Spyro on PS1 versus me running around in the remastered Spyro in Xbox One X. Pretty amazing difference. We've come a long way. And then there was a console that I'm not even sure that I can really include, but I'm going to anyway because it was awesome. The VTech V.Smile. Apparently it came out in 2004, which lines up because my mom says we got it when I was like 4 years old. It was one of those cheap educational game consoles that would have really basic 2D platformers that would teach basic concepts like math and spelling and whatnot. It was pretty awesome. I do think video games is a really good educational platform because kids love video games, and honestly, I wish they still made stuff like this. Maybe they do, but I doubt it was as cool or accessible as this. I mean, it even had a cartridge slot for different games. How can you beat that? I don't have it anymore, but the pictures I've shown looked like it, I think. I definitely remember it being orange and purple. Now that console barely counts, but the next one definitely counts because it's the console that I remember playing the most in my early years, and that's the PlayStation 2. My dad got it around 2004 or 2005. I know this because it was the slim model, and I actually remember we had two because the first one broke. The disc reader stopped working, if I remember correctly, so my dad just bought another one, and this was at least a couple years later. The PS2 was awesome, and the Slim still blows my mind. I recently did a video on it, by the way, link in the description below if you want to check that out. How the heck they got the console this small from the original chunky PS2 is kind of insane. It's mind-blowing. Look at the PS2 Slim compared to, spoilers, my PS5. It's crazy. Spoilers, because eventually I'll be talking about it in this video. It's extremely impressive. I mean, let's say you were stuck between either an Xbox or a PS2. It's 2004, you're gonna buy one of them. You go to the store, and this is what you see. Like, look at the size difference. And yet, they were essentially equivalent consoles. That's insane. This was the best-selling game console of all time, and still is for good reason. And the main reason is likely because it could play DVDs. I'm not gonna go into the history too much because I did that in my recent video, but holy, were there ever so many great games. My favorite will always be the Sly Cooper trilogy, particularly the second game. Sly 2 features 8 basically mini open worlds in which missions take place and will bring you around to different areas. While this is commonplace in any open world game nowadays, I was pretty young and I don't think I had played any proper open world games, and they weren't as common back then. So as a kid, this was kind of mind-blowing to me. I liked it so much better than just moving level to level like in Sonic. You had a list of missions to do, and you could do them at your leisure in any order you choose, all in the same map. Interesting fact, the developers of the Sly Cooper trilogy were Sucker Punch, a studio that would go on to make the infamous games, and more recently, Ghost of Tsushima. Pretty awesome, and I can definitely draw some parallels between Sly and Ghost of Tsushima, given a lot of the stealth-based gameplay. Actually, one thing I remember, and it's kind of hilarious looking back, one of the first missions requires you to hit L3 or R3 on the controller to pull up your binoculars. Well, I didn't know what the L3 or R3 button was, and was convinced that I had an outdated controller and needed a new one. It did show on the screen how to do it, but I guess I just missed it, or maybe I wasn't at the age where I was fully reading yet. I don't really remember. I just remember having some trouble with this. And in my defense, it's something I guess I hadn't seen before, and you know, the controller itself doesn't label L3 or R3 on the joysticks. Finally though, by pure chance, I pushed in one of the joysticks and realized it clicked. It's a clever way to add another button. Other favorite games for the PS2. Oh boy, okay, Gran Turismo 4, that one's amazing, and it gave me a love for cars as I got older. I remember always getting the 240SX first because my dad had one before he married my mom, and I thought it was the coolest car ever. I'm so hyped for Gran Turismo 7. I can't wait. They're finally going back to the roots, and even the UI looks just like Gran Turismo 4 with the top-down 3D view. Then there's NHL 2005. Most enthusiasts of the NHL games point to 04 being the best because it was the last on PC and also was just pretty great. I think the real reason I really love this game is because my favorite hockey player is on the front cover, Marcus Naslund of the Vancouver Canucks. Interesting fact, he's the reason my favorite number is 91. While he's wearing 19 here, in his final year with a different team, he wore the number 91, and I thought it was a cool number, so here we are. It's kind of weird to think about this PS2 game and my love for the Canucks as a kid actually had a real impact on my career path today. I mean, the name of my channel is no joke, but I can't talk too in depth for every game I played or this video will take forever. Sonic Heroes I remember getting for my 6th birthday. I played that game a lot, and interestingly, it's the oldest save file I still have on that PS2 memory card. It was only 8 megabytes, so I deleted a lot of saves over the years. But yeah, so this save file is from December 17th, 2006. That's super cool. There's lots of other games as well. It's also worth mentioning that around this time I did play some games on PC. I remember playing like younger child type games like Freddy Fish and Pajama Sam, and I think one called Spy Fox or something like that. I also do remember Battlefield 2, you know, just gotta slip that one in with the educational games, I guess. And that game was fun. It was really fun to just load up a game against bots and have a good time. But between 2004 and 2009, my life didn't change very much when it came to video games. I just kept playing PS2, getting more games for it, and having it nostalgically ingrained into my brain. But the Christmas of 2009, I got one of the best gifts I've ever received, the Xbox 360 from my Uncle Ken. Shout out to you, Uncle Ken. Thanks again. This console felt like a lifesaver. Next-gen consoles had been out for a while, and my cousin had a PS3, making me feel like I was behind the times. But this console, you could play games in HD. So at the ripe young age of 9 years old, I remember hooking it up and popping in NHL 10 because, you know, I was a huge hockey fanatic, and my mind was absolutely blown by the graphics. Now, it doesn't look very good here, obviously. It's 10 years later, but it was a pretty massive improvement over the PS2. I had NHL 09 for the PS2, which looked like this. So this is actually recorded off of my PS2, and then compare that to NHL 10 for the Xbox 360, 360 actually recorded off of my Xbox 360. That's a massive difference, and to me it felt like the game looked like real life. And in a way, it actually would have looked better to me because my cable likely did not play in high definition, which means hockey games to me were probably in standard definition, and this would have actually looked clearer. But what games besides NHL did I play on the 360? Well, a good few. Halo Reach was probably my most played, or at least was until I got my hands on Skyrim. Skyrim on 360. I poured hundreds and hundreds of hours into that game, and at least 10% of them was just from loading screens. I shudder to think of how much time I wasted just staring at those, but the game was a lot of fun, and to this day it remains my favorite video game of all time, with the Sly Cooper trilogy right behind it, namely for nostalgia reasons. But I love Skyrim not just for the nostalgia. It was a fantastic game with a massive open world that was just so lovingly and thoroughly crafted. It felt like every nook and cranny of the game has something to do, and finally getting all of the achievements a couple years ago on Steam was very satisfying. It's likely my most played game of all time over Minecraft or Civilization or any game like that. It's worth mentioning around this time I discovered Minecraft, or rather my friend did and showed it to me. I jumped on board fairly soon after it got out of the alpha versions. I remember the Wither 1.4 update hitting pretty clearly, and I was hyped for that. It's amazing how much the game has progressed, and yet it almost feels exactly the same. I can still play Minecraft and have a really fun time. I did have Minecraft for 360, and that was a lot of fun to play in split screen with friends, but the worlds were actually limited in size, which absolutely sucked. PC Minecraft back in the old days was just miles ahead of what consoles could do. Halo 4 was another big one I played on Xbox 360, and looking back, the graphics on Halo 4 are pretty darn good for such an old system. I enjoyed that game a decent amount, but found myself going back to Reach for multiplayer. Something about Reach I just really loved. Probably the infection mode for one thing. Alpha Zombies was the best. The campaign too was just fantastic. The final level especially was so much fun to replay. Halo Combat Evolved Anniversary was another fun game, and my first time playing the first Halo story. Other games for the Xbox 360. Okay, so Assassin's Creed 2, 3, and 4 are still some of my favorite games of all time. Sonic Unleashed was a lot of fun when I was younger, and still holds up in the graphics department really well. In fact, look at this. Guess what year this game was made? Did you guess 2008? Because this game was made in 2008. Yeah. The graphics, honestly, they're still some of the best any of the Sonic games have put out. I also played too much of Sonic 06. I know, but I was a big Sonic fan as a kid. I actually really liked Sonic 06 at the time, and I didn't realize it was a buggy mess. I just thought it was difficult. Years later, specifically when I was about 16, I went and completely finished the game for the heck of it. Believe it or not, there actually is a PC revival project for this game, and it actually looks really promising. It's a game that's so bad, it's kind of great, but I've beat it once, and I don't think I ever want to do it again. There were so many more games. I really can't name them all, or I'll be here forever. I loved the Lego Star Wars, The Complete Saga, Lego Harry Potter, Lego Batman, Lego Indiana Jones, lots of Lego games. But then the year is 2010, just after me and my 3-year younger than me brother had gotten the Xbox 360. Lucky us, we get the Nintendo DSi XL from our parents. Now, unfortunately, I think I lost my DSi XL. I feel like I didn't see it that far back, but I can't find it at my place or my parents' house, so unfortunately I can't show it here, besides pictures of what it looks like. Playing games portably was something I had never done before, and I had felt pretty jealous of my PS3 owning cousins as they also had PSPs. But sorry PSP fans, I'm glad I got the DS. The game library was massive, and it allowed me to experience Pokemon Soul Silver, an amazing title and one that offered hundreds of hours of gameplay. There was also New Super Mario Bros., Lego Battles, Scribblenauts, Sonic Colors for the DS, Brain Age, which was pre-installed and kind of fun, Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games. I always loved the Winter Olympic one because it was in Vancouver, which I lived very close to. I also played Pokemon Black Edition as well, and never passed that in Pokemon games, but I kept playing Soul Silver for years and years. It really sucks. In order to properly start a new game, you'd have to erase your old one, so unfortunately my current save file on there, from what I remember, isn't very far into the game. The DSi XL was actually my first portable device with a camera on it that I remember at least, and so I remember taking a lot of bad pictures. It was just a lot of fun. Then the Christmas of 2010 rolls around, and the hot new toy has hit store shelves, the Xbox Kinect. This is worth mentioning because it was a complete rip-off. There were so many broken promises, the presentations were faked, but like everyone else, me and my family fell hook, line, and sinker and got one. Now, to be fair, me and my brother actually had a lot of fun with Kinect adventures. I also have fond memories of the Fruit Ninja game and a Kung Fu game, but there was no question the Kinect was definitely a disappointment. We kind of got over it pretty quickly. I need to do a video on that because it was just such a such a mess from Microsoft. After this, there was no real changes until the Christmas of 2014. The PS4 had of course come out the year before. The months leading up to Christmas of 14 was just me begging for the console, and they always said, no, it's too expensive, we're not getting it. At one point, my mom, I remember her actually yelling at me to stop asking her for the PS4 because it wasn't gonna happen. So I was convinced at this point, but come Christmas Day, we open up this big box and what's inside? A PlayStation 4. I was flabbergasted, I couldn't believe it. My mom did an amazing job fooling me. There was no better gift for a 14-year-old kid than a brand new PS4, PlayStation Plus, Destiny, and a multitude of other titles. Destiny was the first PS4 game I played a lot of. The entire year I played the heck out of that game. Years later, I'd get addicted to Destiny 2 for a few months when it went free to play on Steam. That was only a year ago now, I guess, but so the game was just too grindy for me to enjoy for very long. But I had a good few PS4 games, not just Destiny. Call of Duty Ghosts was actually a game I really enjoyed despite a lot of the hate it was getting at the time. When it comes to Call of Duty, I've always been more of a fan of the single player than the multiplayer. I enjoyed Ghosts, the campaign. I thought it was pretty decent. Unfortunately, the game is only 2-player split screen, which is better than nothing, but it kind of sucks because the days of couch co-op were gone. That's something I found out pretty soon. With the Xbox 360, me and my friends would spend hours playing Halo Reach together, building maps in Forge World, and just having a great time. But now everything had moved on to online play, and I wasn't ready for that transition. Infamous Second Son, I got pretty quickly with my PS4, if not right at Christmas, and that game was a lot of fun. It still is, actually, pretty great graphically, and it looks even better in 60 frames per second on my PS5. I might just have to give it a replay soon. Assassin's Creed Unity, I got for my birthday in 2015, soon after I had gotten the PS4, and I was hyped for that game. I think Unity was very much underrated and overhated, but for just cause, as there was a lot of game-breaking bugs at launch. By the time I played it though, in the April of 2015, it had mostly been patched up, and I was left with a beautiful, huge representation of revolutionary France, and the game was a lot of fun, and I did fully beat it on PS4. The Uncharted collection was really awesome. Need for Speed Rivals I had a decent amount of fun with. You might notice the majority of the games I've mentioned for the PS4 came out in the early years, and there's a reason for that, but my favorite game though for the PS4 that I ever played was 2018's Spider-Man. I got it launch day and it was so much fun. Web slinging across beautiful New York, fighting classic villains, and just feeling like a superhero. I've beat Miles Morales on PS5, I've replayed Spider-Man on PS5, or I'm in the process of doing the DLC actually, because I've never done it before. Spider-Man's just a fantastic game. Horizon Zero Dawn's also a good one. I never really got too far into it, so I'll have to give that one a proper shot at some point. The timeline's kind of jumbled at this point, but I know around this time I also got the PlayStation Vita, my second portable gaming system. Oh, the PS Vita, what could have been. After it launched in 2012, it immediately got a ton of AAA titles that piqued my interest in the console, but as soon as they came, they left, as really the only huge games were released around launch time, and after that, it was mostly just small games and indie titles. In fact, I didn't realize when I bought it, but honestly, I really only bought it for the Sly trilogy on the go, because they had brought it over to PS Vita, and it was awesome. I also wanted to try the fourth Sly game. It was on PS3 when it came out, but I didn't have a PS3 at this point, so I got it on the Vita to give it a shot, and it was fine, I guess. Not great, just doesn't compare to the originals for me, but I played a good few games for the Vita. Need for Speed Most Wanted, Killzone, Assassin's Creed Liberation. There was serious potential for this console. It's really unfortunate it died as quickly as it did. I did a full video on it about a year ago now, by the way, and I'll link it in the description if you're interested. Then, come 2016, and I finally got my first custom-built gaming PC, and that was awesome. I was very hyped for that. I suppose it's not a console, but it is what I started to play most of my games on, which is why most of the PS4 games I had mentioned came out pretty early in the console's life. But yeah, that PC was pretty decent for the time. It had an i5 6600K GTX 960. It was good enough to play most games. It was around then I started playing Overwatch. There was a period of about 6 months of my life where all I did was go to school, come home, play Overwatch, go to bed, go to school, come home, play Overwatch. It was excessive, and I had a good group of friends I played with, but the game was just too toxic. If I wasn't playing with friends, the competitive scene, it was just people just took the game too seriously, and I took the game too seriously. I think I got kind of good for a little while. I was diamond level, if you know what that is, but yeah, it was just too toxic. I got burnt out. The most played game in my Steam library is Civilization 5. I love that game, but I won't get too in depth into what PC games I've played because there's too many of them. The next console I was kind of debating a bit whether or not to include it, but I think it counts because I did put a good few hours into it, and that's the fat PlayStation 3. The summer of 2017, I finally got it for the first time. I got the original model because I loved the design, and I'm really glad I did get a PS3 because I didn't realize just how much I had missed Gran Turismo. I had played Gran Turismo 4 quite a few times, even after getting the Xbox 360 and PS4, I loved it that much. GT5 was awesome. The HD graphics was a big improvement over 4. I didn't mind Gran Turismo 6, but it wasn't as good. They went with a larger focus online and got rid of the used car shop for some reason. And then Christmas of 2017, most of you can probably guess what we got, the Nintendo Switch.
Hey guys, how's it going? I'm Josh from 91Tech, and I just received this Nintendo Switch for Christmas, so we're gonna go ahead and unbox this thing because it's pretty cool. It's actually snowing, which is really neat. Doesn't usually happen on Christmas here, so let's just go inside and do this.
My parents got me and my brother the Nintendo Switch. The Switch is amazing. I love it. I'm not gonna spend much time on it. From Mario Odyssey to Breath of the Wild to Smash Brothers and so on and so forth. It's a great console. Also in 2017, my uncle, same one that gave us the Xbox 360, gave me the Oculus Rift, which was an awesome gift.
Bacon strips.
I love my Rift, especially Beat Saber. I've put well over 100 hours into that game and it's just so much fun.
Oh. Oh my goodness. That's kind of difficult.
Yeah, so not to brag or anything, but I'm actually kind of good at Beat Saber. At one point I was actually 50th in Canada going by the Beat Saber leaderboards, and that was 2018, but I've not been playing very consistently since then. But this here you're seeing, this is actual gameplay from me. It's a super fun game and it's a great workout, so totally recommend Beat Saber if you haven't tried it and have a VR headset. Skip to 2019 and I was going to university, living on my own and bored out of my mind, so I bought myself an Xbox One S. I then proceeded to do better than I expected I ever would on YouTube and dropped out of university in the September of 2019, and yeah, no regrets there honestly. YouTube's been fun. Then earlier this year I got the Xbox One X. You might ask why, and to that I'd say why not? No, but it was a Cyberpunk special edition and I just thought it looked really cool and I figured it could be rare in the future, and already it's going for quite a bit more than it's worth on eBay. Right now they go for like $700-800, which is like over double what I paid. I also got the Nintendo Switch Lite, which was mostly for review, but I've also had fun playing it. I also modded it with a transparent front, which is cool. Did a video on that, link in the description. And now finally, December of 2020, I got the PlayStation 5. Spider-Man Miles Morales has been a joy to play, and I've been having a blast. It's really nice to have that nostalgic feeling of having a new console again. A new console that gives an experience unlike anything I've ever had. I've obviously gotten quite a few different consoles over the past few years, but the truth is none have been much better than my 2014 PS4. The Switch is great, but it feels like the same generation, not next gen. Obviously my PC right now is really good. I upgraded it last year to an RTX 2070 Super graphics card and i9 9900K, so it can run games no problem, but I do tend to save my games to physical hard drives instead of my SSD just to save space, and the PS5 utilizes an SSD, and it's so fast. The loading times are nearly non-existent, and it really does feel like next generation. Mix that with the ray tracing, which with my RTX 2070 Super, I can do it, but it usually just kills my frames per second, so I don't bother. It's fantastic. Spider-Man's a lot of fun, and there are so many other great games, including the entire PS4 library, pretty much. I still use PC, of course. Any competitive game like a shooter, I'll stick to my PC, but with the PS5, I get to play Sony exclusives, as well as, you know, just regular games, and it's great. I really, really love the PS5. Sony did a fantastic job on it. And that's about it. And I haven't even mentioned a lot of the consoles I've gotten purely for the channel, such as the original Xbox or the Nintendo 64. Heck, I haven't even done reviews on most of them yet. I think I just like collecting in all honesty. But it's been a fun ride, and for better or for worse, video games has always been one of, if not the biggest source of my entertainment. I'm sure many of you can relate to that, especially if you're still watching this video. And if you are somehow still watching this video, congratulations, you've reached the end. Not much else to say, honestly. It's just been fun to go back, kind of look at my past a little bit, and I want to hear about yours. What video game consoles have you owned, and what was your favorite one? For me, it's always going to be the PS2. I don't don't think anything can top it just because of the nostalgia factor. But yeah, I'm really hyped about the PS5. It's been a lot of fun lately, and I'm excited for what's next. So Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. I've been having a fun little past few days here. I actually got a dog, a mini dachshund puppy. You can see her here. She's the cutest thing. Her name is Cola because her colors look like Coca-Cola. So that's what I've been up to. But yeah, hopefully I'll be able to include her in some videos coming in the future just for fun. Again, Merry Christmas. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you have a nice end of the year here, and if you're watching this in the future, hope 2021 is better than 2020. Fingers crossed. But that all being said, thanks again for watching. I'm Josh from 91 Tech, and I will of course see you all in the next one.